Hey, it's Camo for Nashville Access Facebook Live, the Pie Wagon Sessions. Special guest, David Lowry. How you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Thanks for coming by. You've got a lot of stuff going on in town. You're another one of those guys that just is got your hands in a bunch of stuff, which is kind of a Nashville thing. But one of the things I wanted to talk about most was the Nashville Guitar Club and the event you've got coming up next week.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool show.
Thank you. Thank you. It was an idea that a friend of mine, John Chishada, had, and I've been wanting to do something for this for a long time. It's hard to get people excited about guitar shows in general. But he approached me about this a few months back, and we started laying it out. And so on April 19th at 12th and Porter, we have the Nashville Guitar Club show, and it's going to be featuring Denny Giosa, who's a local jazz musician who's won Grammys. It'll have Larry Mitchell, for those guitar players out there who remember all the shred and shrapnel days. He goes all the way back to that particular period. And then we have Mitch Malloy, who is best probably known for his 80s rockers days and the Lost Boy Van Halen, I guess he goes by. Almost got that gig in Van Halen singing lead. Then we have Chris Rodriguez, who is a session player here in Nashville. And he's been touring with Keith Urban, Kelly Clarkson, Shania, yeah, I mean all kinds of
I had an improv class with Chris in college.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
he was really good then too.
He's a phenomenal player. And then just announced a few days ago, Peter Cetera from Chicago, Chicago fame, will be coming in at the end there with Chris and doing a few of his hits as well. Then do a nice little all-star jam session at the very end of the night.
That's neat. 12th and Porter, great place for that too.
Yes. It's newly revamped and looks beautiful, and they've done a great thing there trying to revive that venue. So
one of my favorite places in town for audio. The sound is just
it's amazing.
Do a good job.
Yeah, it really is. Absolutely.
So, did you start the Nashville Guitar Club? Or?
No, John did. I think he had just seen all the stuff that I had going on, and he knew that I had been working with instrumental guitar players for quite a while. So he approached me about it, and we kind of sat down and took his idea and fleshed it out a little more as to, what could this really turn into, and how do we best serve that community? Because ever since the 90s, the guitar community has kind of died off a little bit, right? So
the drum loop community's really built up,
and the better you could play, the less money you made. It's kind of how it went. So we wanted to really serve that not only the musicians but the audience, to let them see how beautiful the instrumental guitar really is again.
I remember going years ago. There used to be because I'm a steel player, and they used to have steel guitar conventions in St. Louis every year, and all the best players would come. And as somebody who was just an everyday player, to get a chance to see those huge names. I mean, at the time it was Emmons and Lloyd Green, all the killer steel players in their prime, all on one stage. So for guitar players to see guys like of this caliber all on one stage too.
Yeah, it's amazing. And what's been really nice about it is the complete lack of ego. So when you got that many people who are at a certain level of musicianship, and to not have that struggle and fight and whatever, and that's always been one of my issues working with instrumental guitarists is, you're trying to put on shows for people that don't generate a lot of ticket sales in general, but somehow you're trying to figure out how to get them and their band and the other guy and their band and the other guy and their band, right, and pay everybody, and it's really hard, and we haven't had any of those problems putting it together.
Well, that's cool. So can anybody join the Nashville Guitar Club?
Well, it's not really a club.
It's just
it's just a name, right? So what it is a quarterly series of events where we will focus on different possible genres, maybe. The idea was that whenever you come to this event, you're going to get something you haven't seen before, and each one will be completely different than the one before. So while we might do like a tribute to somebody in particular at one thing, where different people's different genres might come in and put their take or their spin on their music, for the most part what we're trying to accomplish is we want to have 4 players, each from a different genre, different background, and they're giving you their best for about 20 to 25 minutes. And that was really the goal, was to expose not only guitar but different styles of guitar, right?
Country music gets all the headlines here. This city has great players from just
All
every
over.
genre,
All
metal,
over. Yeah.
jazz, just incredible.
And even within the the tri-state area, I mean, there's Atlanta has a vast number of amazing guitar players in itself. So we're trying to draw those people in as well, right? So that while we may not like every genre, those of us who are musicians or appreciate music can learn to appreciate a different genre, right? So we're trying to just expose that and say, look, not everything has to be a pentatonic scale to be, have feel or whatever. You come out and experience what these people can do and make a judgment for yourself and maybe pick up some new favorite musicians that you never thought of before.
That's cool. Again, the event is April 19th.
April 19th at 12th and Porter.
What time?
There's a VIP from 4 to 6, and then the event starts at 7 and runs till about 9 o'clock.
Is there a
tickets?
cost?
Tickets are $15 for general admission, $10 for students. It's $99 for the VIP, and during the VIP, there's some giveaways. All the artists will be there, and Lance Allen, who's an award-winning acoustic player, will be providing some background music. So they'll have that as well as some food.
Oh, that's cool. Good. I hope it does well for you.
Thank you very much.
Now you do a bunch of other stuff too. You're involved with promoting board games.
Yeah.
Tell us
That was I don't think I've ever done anything in my life that I really necessarily planned out.
Seems to be a theme today.
Yeah. I've gamed since I was a kid. It was just a hobby of mine. And a few years back, I was getting so frustrated with the music industry. I just needed an outlet. Right? 'Cause everything was music 24 hours a day. So I started reviewing board games just for fun, and it kind of grew into this thing where, because I knew how to market myself, that people started noticing me and whatever. And before you know it, I ended up signing contracts and doing things where I'm actually representing some of these companies. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to put together some video events where it's me and some of the rock stars around Nashville or country stars around Nashville, and we're actually going to be playing these games so that we can expose the musicians to a whole new genre of people that they don't normally get exposed to, and vice versa. We can take the board games and expose them to the fans and the musicians who might really be into something that's a little more family oriented, get the kids off the cell phones and their iPads and their Xboxes and whatever. So we started doing that, as well as creating merchandise out of some of these games and licensing IPs and things like that. So those are the things that I'm working on.
I'm still stuck in a time warp. The last video game that I played and enjoyed was Zaxxon in 1984,
Wow.
and I love Risk.
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 Really?
Still my favorite board game.
Battleship.
I've got a game in the car that you'll love better than that, I can tell you right now. Games have come so far from what we grew up with Monopoly and Sorry and Life and whatever. And
Mousetrap.
Mousetrap, yes. Although I've been going back and trying to collect some of those games from my youth, today's board games are much more accessible. Sometimes they're much easier to learn, and there's no player elimination for the most part, unless you're specifically looking for that type of game. And we've got it down now where you can play games in 15 or 20 minutes that really provide that feeling of playing a game with some strategy and a lot of great social interaction. So today's games are much different than they used to be. They're a lot more fun, and they're a lot better designed.
I knew these guys growing up that played games like Battle of Britain and Luftwaffe, and they were
the old
huge board games
yes.
that took forever.
Yes.
They were real strategy, and even using the word
With
game
rule
was
books
kind
about that thick. Yeah, they're still there, and there's still a whole community for that, although, of course, obviously, it's not the big sellers.
Yeah.
But we've taken some of those strategies and provided those in games that you can play in maybe 90 minutes, and we do have games that go longer. I mean, I've got a couple that go 7 hours, and I'll play them. But, the idea was that the board game community really started designing games that, for somebody who likes board games, who doesn't have the time to dedicate, or doesn't have the space to set up a game and leave it there for 2 days, you can get a solid game in 60 to 90 minutes that provides all the same strategy that you would have got out of some of those longer ones, but much easier to learn.
Do you find families are getting into it? Because I've seen you and your
absolutely.
daughter, you guys get into it.
It's
It looks like
growing.
she's having a lot of fun, and she's at an age where you would think, board games, really?
No, she loves board games. Board games are growing at 20% a year over the last 5 years. So there's a real renaissance kind of going on with this right now. And there's a series out there called Tabletop that has Will Wheaton from Star Trek The Next Generation fame, who kind of did the same kind of idea where it's him and a bunch of other, being C-list stars from YouTube that surround and play these games, and it really brought in a whole lot of new people to the industry as well. but we're seeing somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 brand new games come out a year. And there's just this huge resurgence in that particular market, to the point where now all these games are being carried in Target and Barnes & Noble and even Walgreens. So, it's really kind of grown a lot, and we're just trying to expose more people to that so that we spend less time on our electronics and more time together.
That's neat.
Yeah.
I play Battleship on my cell phone.
See? Yeah.
But it's not as much fun.
It's not as much fun. You need the social interaction, right? So if you like stab you in the back kind of games or things like that, there's a whole slew of them out there now that you can get into. That it's not Cards Against Humanity, and it's not Munchkin, and it's not whatever. There's literally any genre you can think of and any topic you can think of as a theme. It's in a board game nowadays.
I think just a few years I've known you, when you started doing the board games, I thought, oh really? And it's just turned into this huge
Turned into
thing.
this whole thing, yeah. I mean, I've been able to develop a whole other side of the business around it. And I think it's because people are so hungry for something different, right? It's very tangible, and because of that social interaction and being able to sit around with your best friends and play some games, and a lot of these games are not stab you in the back. They're very friendly. It's where you can all enjoy each other's company, and you don't have a lot of people getting mad because they're sore losers or whatever. It's really kind of opened up that whole, wanting to do something. Game nights are popping up all over town.
Wow.
So it's growing. It's huge. We have one game night that goes on that, on average it'll have somewhere between 30 and 70 people show up just for that game night.
That's incredible.
Right? And 5 years ago it was tough to get 14 people to a game night. So it's growing.
Wow. How can people find out more about the games and stuff you're doing?
Well, they can go to one of my sites, which is clubfantasci.com. That's FANTASCI. It's half fantasy, half science fiction. And they can learn about different types of games through reviews and previews and things that we do there. Or they can go to another game site called boardgamegeek.com. Now that one is very intense, I'm not going to lie. But every game that you can ever think of in your life is listed on that site.
Wow.
And then from that site, if you look up that game, you will find all kinds of reviews, whether it be written or video or whatever, and all the little tips and tricks to be able to play that game through strategy and things like that, as well as expansions or people create a lot of stuff. This is an industry where people go out and they create a bunch of extra stuff for the game, so you're always adding to that game, right? And the replay value is huge. Yeah.
So it's almost taking a page from the technology where technology would add on a new app or something.
Right. It's almost like open source.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
So a lot of the gamers are doing that, where they're creating, and it could be something like a role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons or something else, but they're creating all these different things that you can add to that game, so that if you went out and spent anywhere from say $20 to $50 on a game, that game will last you the rest of your life, because it never gets old, because each time you play it is completely different, and that's really one of the major benefits of today's board.
So like going to the cottage, it's like, oh, we're playing this again.
Right. Yeah, you don't have. There are some games like that, but for the most part, no. For the most part, whenever you play a game, you won't get tired of it. And there's games I've played hundreds of times, and I still love playing it.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a neat thing.
So check out those websites, and also look for Nashville Guitar Club on Facebook.
Nashville Guitar Club.co, not .com, .co. And of course, we're on all the social medias and things like that. Or you can just go to thelowryagency.com and find out more about it there as well.
Cool.
Put all those on.
Yeah, we'll put all the links. Yeah. Thanks for coming by.
Hey, I
It's always
appreciate your
good to
time.
see
Thank you.
All right. See you next time.
Thank you.